Okay, it's that time. It's finally here. Time to talk about the pen tool. I know this is probably the scariest moment of the course so far, but it's okay, really. The pen tool is not nearly as scary as people make it out to be. But before we actually get started drawing with the pen tool, let's knock out some basic concepts so that you understand exactly what it is and what it's supposed to do. So let's go up to the File menu and choose New. Create a new document. Does not matter how big or how small, just get yourself a blank canvas to work with. And then what I want you to do is just simply press the letter P on your keyboard. When you press the letter P on your keyboard, you have access to the pen tool directly, or you can click on it right over here in the Tools panel. When you have the pen tool in hand, it's very, very simple to use. All you have to do is point, click, and go. Point, click, and go. Point, click, and go. Point, click, and go. That's it. Now, there are some subtleties that can be thrown in there in order to make curved lines and whatnot, but at the heart of the pen tool, it's a point-and-click drawing tool. That's all there is to it. There are also many different versions of the pen tool which enable you to do a lot of different things to help manipulate and sort of push your artwork in the right direction. So let's take a look at some of those. I'll select this piece of artwork and we'll just get rid of it here. Let's select it and hit delete. Then I'm going to open up the pen tool toolbox by clicking and holding on it. And then I'm going to tear it off using this little flap right here. Let's just break it out into its own panel. That way it's out on screen and you can see exactly what it is. So we have basically four tools at our disposal. We have the pen tool, we have the add anchor point tool, we have the delete anchor point tool, and we have the convert anchor point tool. Let me show you what all of these do. So for instance, if I wanted to draw out, let's do an ellipse. So let's draw out an ellipse, and let's grab the delete anchor point tool first. When I grab the delete anchor point tool, what do you think it does? Well, it deletes anchor points. So if I go here and delete that anchor point, it now has some sort of weird bowl-shaped object. If I delete this anchor point over here, it's even smaller. Delete this one, it's nothing but 1 point left. Let's undo that, and let's grab the add anchor point tool. It's exactly what you think it is. It adds anchor points. Now, why would you want to add anchor points to a shape or to an object? Well, to get a better level of control over it. Because if you have too few anchor points, it's just as bad as having too many. You need to find that right balance so that you have an equal level of control over every facet of your design. So adding anchor points to your designs may be a way that you get better control over them. You can also take those anchor points and move them around by selecting them with the direct selection tool and then moving those anchor points from place to place. You can remove those extraneous anchor points anytime you want by going back with Command or Control Z, or you could simply select them with the direct selection tool and then delete them, and they will be removed. So what does this thing do at the end, the anchor point tool? Well, the anchor point tool actually allows you to convert curved segments into corner segments and corner segments into curved segments. What are you talking about? Okay, let me show you. Let's take this and we'll just move it kind of in the center of the document so that I've got some space to work with here. And I'll zoom in and I'll grab the anchor point tool. Then let's come down to the bottom of this circle and let's just click right here on the bottom. When I click on the bottom, it's going to basically turn that into a point, whereas before it was round. Now, if I click it again, it doesn't really do anything. But if I click and draw out, I can actually bring the circle back. Those are just adding those control handles like we saw earlier. And the pen tool does much the same thing. So the pen tool's faces, as I call them, are the pen tool itself, add anchor point, delete anchor point, and the anchor point tool. When we're using the pen tool, we're just going to point, click, and move. There are some other things that we're going to throw in there, but we'll get to that as we start drawing more complex shapes. But right now, we're just worried about point, click, and move. So take some time and practice with that. See what kind of shapes you're able to draw. If you get frustrated with it, that's okay, because we're going to continue working with the pen tool throughout this chapter. But I just wanted to lay the groundwork, have you familiar with these pen tools inside of this panel, and get you behind the basic idea of point, click, and move. Now, let's get down to business.